Some folks are never going to be rich. And no, it has nothing to do with where you grew up, who your parents are, your gender, or your skin color. Allow us to explain. Welcome to KG, the Inspiration Center for Future Billionaires. These data are intended to represent the world's population in terms of quality of life and living standards. To be rich, you must belong to the top 20% of the population. To be poor, you guessed it, you had to be in the bottom 20%. The middle class includes everyone in the middle, and it can be divided into upper and lower and middle classes, but that's not what you're interested in. Being rich is, after all, a matter of perspective. You are just rich in comparison to others. To be considered rich, you must have a worse quality of life than 80% of the population in your comparison group. This is true on a global scale as well as in your little neighborhood. If we agree that the top 20% rule applies in terms of living standards, then the bottom 80% of the population will never be rich, thus we're done with this movie, right? There's more to this story, though. We do so because we compare our wealth and quality of life to that of others. The laws of basic mathematics just do not permit everyone to be in the top 20%. Because it wouldn't be the top 20% if that were the case. Makes sense? Technically, if you compare the quality of life we have today to that of someone who lived 100 years ago, practically everyone on the planet enjoys a greater level of living today. Here's when it gets very interesting. Unless you're in the poorest 0.001% of the population, you have a better quality of life than most kings and queens who have ever lived. If you were a king in the 1600s or prior and you became sick, you had to rely on witchcraft and drink to get better. Because witchcraft wasn't so cunning, life expectancy was under 40 years and most diseases would kill you. We didn't start developing medicine for another 200 years. So we've been living like kings for a long time now, with telephones, power, access to water, travel, and freedom from slavery, but you don't feel rich since the top 20% rule applies. You are only rich if you outperform your peers. However, KG, what does it take to break into the top 20%, and why aren't more people ready to go to such lengths? An imaginary voice in our heads, we're delighted you posed that inquiry. Well, it comes down to two simple truths, one of which is much more difficult to swallow than the other. Here's why most people don't make it into the top 20% of the population in terms of living standards. It's about access to resources, information, religious culture, and infrastructure on a broad scale. This is why, in 2020, everyone in Switzerland with a GDP per capita of $86,601 is regarded as rich, and everyone in South Sudan with a GDP per capita of $700 in 2021 is deemed poor. Impoverished people like this argument because the source of their poverty is, in most cases, outside their control. The government is corrupt, and instead of investing in effective departments to improve the population, they waste money and keep everyone poor. This is true in the majority of these impoverished countries. But there's a second fact that's a lot more difficult to swallow since it's not on a national level this time. Instead, it's about your local neighborhood. On a microscale, the majority of people who do not become locally wealthy do so because they are unwilling to learn and make the necessary sacrifices. Yes, we'll be going there. Only a small percentage of the population, mostly men, are willing to give up decades of their lives, take enormous risks, and have a slim chance of success in order to break out of the mainstream population for financial and societal advantage. This occurs in both rich and impoverished countries. Everywhere you turn, there are examples of people who started from nothing and rose to greatness. So we know it's possible. The extraordinary level of sacrifice and discipline required to make the leap is something most people prefer to overlook. If geography is the main reason keeping you in poverty, you will most likely have to leave your roots behind in order to relocate to a region with more chances. It's tremendously difficult to leave your hometown, comfortable surroundings, and venture into the unknown on your own. And guess what? More than 80% of the public is unwilling to accept such a risk. According to statistics, you will be born in the same location as your parents. You'll be educated there, and you'll find a companion within a 50-kilometer radius of your birthplace. If you spend the majority of your life working within 60 minutes of your house, you will very certainly die there as well. This is a wake-up call for those of you who are currently watching this video. If you don't maximize the geographical opportunities available to you, you'll probably live an average life. A decent life, but nothing out of the usual. The second phase entails determining your physical and mental limitations. Are you capable of working for 8 hours a day? Do you work for 10, 12, or 14 hours a day? Are you capable of learning and eager to practice without expecting a quick result? This section relies on the ability to delay gratification, which the majority of people are unfamiliar with. Money, success, and celebrity are all long-term delayed gratification games that rely on doing effort that accumulates over time until a certain goal is met. In other words, are you willing to put the present ahead of the future? How far are you willing to go to make a sacrifice? Are you willing to work when others are having a good time? Are you willing to gain useful skills rather than be entertained? Are you willing to be mocked and laughed at for your efforts, knowing that failure and practice are both necessary parts of the process? Most people aren't. Most people would never attempt, and of those that do, a large percentage will give up at various points during the process. But here's the catch: because wealth is a delayed gratification game, you only win at the very end. You won't gain anything if you resign at 20%, 50%, or 80%. The reward for successfully enduring this sacrifice and emerging victorious is wealth. Those that add value to the lives of others should be rewarded. This is how our society operates, and this is how you will operate as well. There's also a fair amount of luck and timing involved, and the two go hand in hand. You've already won the luck part if you're watching this video. You are fortunate to have made it this far. You've already won the luck part if you don't have a major physical or mental disability. You have access to cutting-edge technology, carefully curated information, and the world's largest marketplace for opportunities. Every generation has its own set of prospects for wealth creation. The internet revolution was the catalyst for us. We probably wouldn't be able to interact with you the way we do now if we were born 20 years earlier. If you were born today, social media as we know it could become a behemoth, and the gamification of the metaverse may be your ticket to riches. This is why you must also have a good sense of time. Find out where your time's opportunities are and concentrate your efforts there. Acquire specialized knowledge in a subject where value is created and you will be compensated for your abilities. The majority of people are unwilling to learn how to use today's tools, therefore those that do have a significant competitive advantage. Money, success, and prosperity are far less complicated than the world portrays them to be. If you want to win at the money game, you need to learn the rules, and we applaud you for taking the effort to do so today. Assuming what is known as asymmetric risk is the fastest method to achieve fortune and success in your life. This is an idea that has captivated us since we first learned about it, and it has resulted in the greatest amount of personal riches for us. Next time, we'll do a video on asymmetric risk, what it is, and how you can utilize it to develop wealth for yourself, so make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Your ability to triumph isn't contingent on the actions of others. Based on what you perform today, you'll win. Tomorrow and every day after that. It makes no difference what other people think, say, or do. You're not racing against them, you're racing against the things that are making your life difficult right now, and almost all of them are within your control. Even if you don't win big, you have the power and obligation to make your life better, so make use of it. Pay no attention to the doubters as you move through life, naively believing that everything good will happen for you. You'll find yourself in the midst of opportunities that they are oblivious of. We became affluent because we refused to listen to those who told us that what we wanted to do was impossible. So, hey cheers, are you going to live your life according to your desires? Will you allow others to decide how you should live your life? If you're prepared to take a chance, type the word "I'm ready" in capital letters in the comments. The majority of those are on a quest to not only break into the top 20%, but to reach the pinnacle.